Hey everybody, welcome back to the Triple Play podcast. Spring break is over and we are ready to talk about sports because a lot of sports has happened this past week. I am joined today by David. He is here once again. Let's just go ahead and just go straight into it because we have a lot to talk about. Yeah. It's been a bunch of madness, if I do say so myself. The Lady Vols were given the seventh seed in the Sioux Falls region of the women's tournament. They barely survived their first round matchup against 10th seed Green Bay, winning 59-53. They moved on to go against 2 seed Arizona State Sunday night, and they would take that win 75-64, and they are still dancing into the Sweet 16. After a season of struggles, because let's just be honest, this has been a season of just complete craziness, madness, and just a lot of inconsistency. It's a bit surprising to find the Lady Vols here, but you are not all that surprised by it, David. But no. I know a lot of people are. So why are you not surprised by this Sweet 16 appearance?
Well, it was just based on the matchups. Okay, mm-hmm. First of all, look, they barely beat Green Bay, but let's be real. Green Bay plays in the Horizon League. If your conference is named after the supposed line that separates the earth from the sky, you're probably you don't belong. I'm sorry, Green Bay. So, and there was some bad shooting from the Lady Vols in the game. But against Arizona State, okay, a team that struggles on offense and doesn't have one player that can take over a game, I felt that even though they're playing in Tempe, the Lady Vols had a chance to upset. And it all depended on DeShields shooting well, which she started off not so well, but in the second half, 6 for 8. I mean,
right, unbelievable.
And then inside, Graves and Russell took care of business. Mm-hmm. And then their defense, I mean, the Sun Devils against that zone, eventually they couldn't find any openings. In the first half, they were doing a good job, but eventually it just took its toll, and Tennessee really dictated the pace in this game overall. So I wasn't surprised because I felt the matchups were good for Tennessee, and we have seen them play tough opponents, down to the wire all season long.
That's true.
So to me, it's not surprising. Ohio State, it's a different kind of animal. Yeah. Might be a little bit tougher, but I'm still optimistic.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's going to be very interesting, but I think one thing that needs to happen that we saw in this Arizona State game, the Vols need Russell to just really just be explosive. Mm-hmm. She had double-digit scoring, which, I mean, she didn't have that much this season. Mm-hmm. I want to say whenever they played Green Bay, she had 8 points. But it's just, if the Lady Vols want to win, they do need that inside presence for sure. I mean, rebounds definitely, but you need to be scoring in the paint. Mm-hmm. I mean, 3-point shooting has been a struggle, as you can see with stats. I mean, 3-point shooting for the Lady Vols against Green Bay, they were shooting 25% also with Arizona State. So it's just, if you're not going to be making shots on the outside, you really need to start driving into the paint and get some shots there. With the game against Green Bay, the Lady Vols were shooting from field goal 38% and then 51% against Arizona State. So that was a very good movement up for them, but it's just, you need that inside presence, and it was really good to see Mercedes Russell playing like she did. I think that's been missed.
Yeah, and then, I mean, they only took 4 3-pointers the last game. I mean, they learned that, hey, we're not that good from the outside. And Arizona State's a great defensive team.
Right.
So the way they played in the first half on offense at times was a little concerning. DeShields would just, launch a shot. And then, I mean, when she gets going, it's all great, but you can't always bank on that. So, they need to stay inside. They outscored them in the paint, I believe, 42-27.
Right.
So that was great. The one thing they have over Ohio State, though, is size.
Definitely.
Mercedes Russell's 6'6", 4 inches on Ohio State's base.
Right.
They need to keep feeding her. And especially since DeShields, I think they should put DeShields all over Kelsey Mitchell.
I agree with that.
And she has, I think, 4 or 5 inches on her, 5'8" versus 6'1". DeShields will have to put a lot of energy into guarding her, so I don't think she'll be as effective on the offensive end. So I think the reason why the Lady Vols, I believe, they will beat Ohio State is because of the size advantage. And I am going to personally guarantee that they will win. And I know I already made a bet, but I'm going to make another bet here. Okay?
All right.
I guarantee the Lady Vols will win. And if they don't win, I will eat nothing but oranges for the rest of the semester.
You heard it here first on the Triple Play. Oranges could become the new diet of David Bradford's life.
Yes, it's going to be terrible.
It could happen.
Yeah.
It could happen. The Ohio State matchup, it's going to be interesting. That's the only way to look at it. I mean, this is the kind of matchup you want to see in the Sweet 16. 2 power teams. I mean, Ohio State has obviously looked a little bit stronger as of late, but the Lady Vols have really made a big comeback from what you saw at the end of the season. There was a bit of a drop-off, but they're really just fighting back like they should be. It's going to be interesting to see. That game's going to be Friday. There hasn't been a time released yet or anything, TV appearance or anything. Most likely it'll be on an ESPN network, as all the games have been so far. So what, besides going into playing stronger in the paint, is there anything else you think the Lady Vols need to key in on in order to beat Ohio State, or at least maintain them for a while?
Well, a problem that has just plagued the entire season has been turnovers. And sometimes their offense looks great. DeShields is like playing within the offense, passing, and then taking smart shots. But even against Arizona State, there were times where they would make a lazy pass, or on defense they wouldn't close out, and that's why Arizona State was so successful from the three-point line in the first half. And against Ohio State, they average over 80 points a game, which is 20 points more than Arizona State. You're playing a different offensive animal. You cannot be lazy on the defensive side closing out, and you can't turn the ball over, especially with Mitchell coming off a 45-point performance, averaging 25 points per game. You know, you can get away with some of these mistakes maybe against Arizona State and Green Bay, but Ohio State is like, I think, an even more elite opponent than Arizona State. You will not get away with those mistakes. Yeah,
they definitely really need to just take an eraser to a lot of the things we've seen from this season. Take away those mistakes. But it's just turnovers, definitely. You hit the nail on the head there. That's been brutal. It's been brutal for the Lady Vols. That's the only way to look at it. But going into the Elite Eight, if they do make it that far, who do you see them taking on?
They will take on South Carolina, and they will not easily, I shouldn't say that. They will defeat South Carolina. If you remember, they played South Carolina earlier in the season, okay? And South Carolina did not blow them out, okay? Right. They were in that game, and they were in that game because they made it ugly, okay? And South Carolina, I understand they're a number one seed.
Right.
They are the new queens of the SEC. They're kind of taking Tennessee's place now. But I know that they have Russell on the inside. They have the size. South Carolina struggles on the outside at times. I believe that they will force South Carolina, if they make it to this point against South Carolina, they'll force South Carolina to be an outside shooting team, and that will play in Tennessee's favor. And when DeShields is going, she is the best athlete, and she's the best player on the court,
I agree with
bar none. I mean, the way she brings the ball up the court looks so fluid and natural, and she can make perfect passes. That's an underrated aspect of her game. The problem is sometimes is that, like I mentioned earlier, there's like laziness on the offense, no movement away from the ball, and just lazy passes, and just like they'll just throw it up when there's like three defenders in the paint. So you have to play almost a perfect game to beat South Carolina.
That's true.
A perfect kind of ugly game, because South Carolina, I mean, when they get going, they're almost as unstoppable as UConn. So almost as unstoppable as UConn. But I believe Tennessee takes on South Carolina, they will win.
Another thing that you hear first on the triple play, David is just adamant. I like it. Obviously, they're going to take on South Carolina if they make it to the Elite Eight. But even if they don't, a South Carolina-Ohio State matchup, that could be a lot of fun to watch. I'm a fan of that matchup. That could be fun. I mean, I'm a fan of basketball. Any good matchups like that, you want to see. So speaking of good matchups, let's go ahead and dive into the men's side of March Madness, because there have been exciting matchups, good matchups, and then heartbreaking losses. That's the three main things to describe what we have seen so far. The Sweet 16 is set, but let's go back and look at the first and second rounds of the sheer madness that has happened. I want to break down some numbers for you really quick. 13 lower seeds moved on to the second round from the first round with two overtime or two overtime games. That's happened. It's been insane. With the second round, you saw more upsets as well. There were 3 lower seed teams advancing with 1 overtime game. There have been plenty of buzzer beaters that we've seen, crazy finishes, but what moments or games have stood out to you the most from the first and second rounds?
I guess we should start in the first round.
Let's start with the first. We'll start at the beginning.
The obvious one is Michigan State, Middle Tennessee.
Of course.
I mean, that completely obliterated every bracket in America.
Took down 3 of mine, so I'm heartbroken.
And I know here at TNJ, and a lot of people had Michigan State going to the Final Four, winning the championship. So brackets done, thrown in the fireplace. And Michigan State, everyone said that they deserve the number 1 seed over Oregon, which there's, and Virginia. And there's, I could see that argument, of course. Michigan State, they've proven themselves ever since Tom Izzo has taken over. But I did not pick them to go to the Final Four. I picked Virginia in this. And I've always felt Michigan State has been a little overrated. And even though Tom Izzo, great coach,
of course,
people call him the master of March. And he's great in March. but I don't think he's the best coach in college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not so certain that he got outcoached against Middle Tennessee because they were on fire.
They were.
11 of 19 from 3.
Mm-hmm.
But Michigan State's defense did not look ready to play. And
No.
Denzel Valentine, he wasn't that great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had some, 12 assists, I believe, but overall, offensively, kind of disappointing, especially from a Player of the Year candidate.
Yeah.
I was stunned that Michigan State lost. I honestly didn't think that would happen.
I did not see it coming at all because I looked at my bracket and like, okay, if I'm going to take an obvious not number 1 seed to win this, Michigan State was looking really good because of Tom Izzo. Great coach, great in March, like you already said. But looking at what they had in their bracket in that Midwest region, that Virginia game, I kept looking at Virginia as maybe being a contender for the national championship, but I just didn't see it happening. Mm-hmm. I don't see a number 1 seed winning it.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and throw that out. If a number 1 seed does, I'm going to say North Carolina just because I just see that. I see that happening. Roy Williams, he has magic in him. I'm convinced he's some kind of magic man. Something can happen. We saw it in 2009 whenever they won the championship. That was a great season for them. But just looking at what we've seen so far, North Carolina looks like a solid team. But that Michigan State, Middle Tennessee, I'm looking at my bracket right now, and I'm still heartbroken over the X's. There's so many X's I had to put on here from that game. It's just, it's sad. But going into the second round, things got a little bit more exciting, I would say.
Yes.
Much more exciting.
A couple of games that are instant classics.
Definitely. So which one was a classic for you?
Felt maybe underrated, kind of. Maybe not an instant classic, but still a great game to watch. Kentucky, Indiana.
Right.
And, 2 elite programs. They have a rivalry going.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, as a member of Big Blue Nation, okay, on UT's campus, I fear for my life almost every day.
Of course.
With that being said, I think this loss will change Kentucky's philosophy in the future.
I would agree with that.
Because the one and done, yes, Kentucky has the Final Four appearances. They have the national championship. And then Duke last year had the one and dones, and they won it all. But for the most part, you look at the teams that win it all, they have those experienced leaders. And Kentucky, they always get to the Final Four under Coach Cal. But for the majority of the time, it seems that their inexperience catches up with them.
Yeah.
And every time, except for the year they won it all, they had Anthony Davis, who's transcendent talent. You're going to win the national championship with Anthony Davis. But every time they've gotten to the Final Four, they've done something that is just inexplicable. Whether it was against West Virginia in 2010, just jacking up 33s when that's not their style of play. Or last year, as an undefeated team, they didn't have one player they could go to. Well, they had Karl Anthony Towns, but they didn't go to him in crunch time against Wisconsin enough. They played too much like a platoon. And then this year, they had the strong guard play, but Jamal Murray, I'm sorry, he absolutely atrocious down the stretch against Indiana. You cannot get your 3-point shot blocked like that. That was stunning. I could not believe how.
And that bothers me too because this is just my opinion. I watch a lot of Kentucky basketball. I've mentioned on the show my dad's a Kentucky fan. There's still been a lot of silence with this game. I can throw that out there. But if you put, this is just me talking. This is my own opinion. But Murray and Ulis, looking at the two of them, I would say Murray is better than Ulis, just because Ulis is impressive with the way he can make shots. He's very smart. He's smart at all aspects of the game. But Murray just has something to him, kind of like. He's a little bit of a cockiness to him with his shooting. Nothing like Marshall Henderson, way back with the Rebels. Nothing like that. But he has this little cockiness to him that he can still make his shots, but there's a fluidity to it. And you just didn't see that against Indiana. It was so sad. It was upsetting.
I'm on the other side of that. I like Ulis more than Murray.
Fair enough.
I think Murray just let me down so hard, especially in the
last. Let a lot of people down.
I'm sorry. The best players, they take over games and they make their shots in the crucial moments. Ulis almost carried Kentucky back into victory. Now, I do wish that he was a better facilitator in that game. He did only have he had 4 turnovers, 3 assists. And I don't remember how many points he had exactly. He scored a lot. But I hope for Kentucky's sake, I don't think this is going to happen. Ulis and Murray stay. Okay? They need to build veteran leadership on that team more than Poitras. Poitras is a nice role player.
Right.
But that's not the kind of senior that's going to get you over the hump.
No.
And Kentucky, with Cal, they just don't have that. But programs like Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, they usually have those seniors that deliver championships. And I think this loss is going to change Kentucky basketball for the better.
I would agree with that too. Anytime Coach Cal takes a loss, you know he takes that to heart. And that's just going to come back on the bulletin board next season. And it's going to be really interesting to see what they get next season in terms of talent. I know Coach Cal has already said that this next class is probably going to be the best that's ever come to Kentucky. That's a lot. I mean, I think that's a pretty bold prediction for him.
Yeah, it's definitely a bold statement.
I mean, I don't know. This Kentucky team, the loss against Indiana, I kind of saw that one coming. I didn't pick it on all of my brackets either, and it hurts. It hurts so much. But, I mean, Indiana's a good team.
Yeah.
You can't say anything against that. But just Kentucky, they have this thing about them. They can just break apart as quickly as possible.
Yes, it's frustrating. But I think another game worth mentioning, I think it's the obvious one from last night.
Right.
Northern Iowa and Texas A&M.
If you watched, I'm going to skip ahead to the press conference really quick at the end.
Okay.
If you watched that and you didn't feel tugs on your heart, you are not a human being. Well, just saying.
I guess I'm not a human being.
Probably not.
I did not feel sorry for them at all. They blew it.
It was bad.
I was stunned because that game was over for me. Texas A&M kept coming back, but then they would keep extending the lead. I'm like, okay, it's over. There's no way. There's no way. And when they came back, I knew that A&M would find a way to pull it out because you don't blow a lead like that and still pull out the victory.
No, whenever you have players like Alex Caruso on your team, he put up, 25 points, I want to say?
Yeah.
He's going to be a driving force for the Aggies. That's just how it is. That's how it's been all season. But Northern Iowa, when you have the game in your hands, hold on to it.
Yes.
Don't let it go. You should know that by now. And it was so sad. I mean, I want to go back to Caruso. 25 points, 9 rebounds, I want to say. So it's just, you want to contain him as much as possible. And there's a 10-point deficit. You just erase it completely.
Yeah. Turnovers, just mental mistakes.
Turnovers.
And then, but also for the Aggies' house, he started the game 0 for 9.
Yeah.
But then he came up clutch in the second half and then the overtimes. I think this win says a lot about Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And I mean, Northern Iowa, even though they blew the game, they still had a valiant effort overall in the tournament because that buzzer beat over Texas, insane.
Definitely.
And I felt Jesperson, he tried to recreate that in the first overtime, but he shot way too early. They had so much time left. He could have put the ball on the floor a little bit, and he could have taken a good shot, and I think he could have made it. If he had made back-to-back game winners in NCAA tournament, legend. Northern Iowa, turn him into the president of the university right away.
Good work.
But that was an instant classic, best game of the tournament.
It was a really good game. I mean, double overtime, that's impressive. But to see this performance from an 11 seed as well, I don't think a lot of people expected that.
Yeah.
But one thing they talked about in the press conference I thought was really interesting. I know a lot of teams, they always say they're looking ahead to that Final Four. But whenever UNI talks about it, you kind of want to believe it. It's they could make it. It's the Cinderella. It has to happen. It's their time. They have to go to the ball. But Texas A&M, they are really impressive. That's all I can say. And their matchup coming up against Oklahoma, that could be impressive to see.
I am beyond ecstatic.
It's going to be good.
Because Oklahoma, they have the best player in college basketball right now, Buddy Hield. And his second half showing against VCU was, insane. And his efficiency, 36 points, 20 shots. That's only one turnover.
Right.
The dude is playing his best basketball in the most important time of the year after having an off game against West Virginia in the Big 12 semifinals. I think that quote-unquote game-winning shot that was a little too late, I think that helped his confidence out a lot, though. And even though I don't think Oklahoma has the best team overall, if you have the best player in March Madness, just like UConn did in 2011, Kentucky 2012, it doesn't matter. You can win the tournament. And Buddy Hield is playing better than anyone right now. But Texas A&M, they have that mental toughness to them after that comeback. So I think it's going to be great.
The game I'm most looking forward to, we've already talked about Indiana, but Indiana, North Carolina, I feel like this is a classic in the making.
I agree with that. 100%.
These are two storied basketball programs. This is the matchup in the men's that you look forward to. I mean, there's, of course, rivalries that you look forward to, but something in my heart just says that this is going to be a fun one. North Carolina is the 1 seed in the East region, so right now they're looking as a favorite. I mean, they're looking really strong, like I already talked about. But something just seems exciting about this game. I don't know what it is. I mean, Indiana showed they can play extremely well, but everybody knows that against Kentucky. But something also says maybe we could see a 5 beat a 1.
I'm going to say it here. Indiana's going to beat North Carolina.
There you go.
And here's why. As impressive as North Carolina can be, it's kind of, I would say it's kind of troubling to see a number 1 seed, North Carolina, with all that talent, have a 1-point lead over Florida Gulf Coast after a half.
That's true.
And then against Providence, they didn't start out well either. And Providence, I mean, they have Dunn, and he's a stud, no doubt. But now you're in the Sweet 16 against Indiana, who's proven that, I mean, I think they felt a little disrespected.
They did.
Because they won the Big Ten regular season.
Yeah.
I don't think many people talked about that. And I don't know if many people gave them a shot against Kentucky. And they really, and the coach said after the game, this team has a togetherness.
Yeah.
And I don't know, North Carolina, if they start out slow again, I don't think Indiana is the type of team that'll let it get out of hand.
Right, and I mean, Indiana's also the kind of team that you could just see them just firing on all cylinders straight out of the gate.
Yes,
that can happen. But North Carolina, I've seen it all season. Yeah. They will start off slow, but then there's some kind of magic.
Yeah,
whether it's Roy Williams just coaching them up or something, somebody gets on fire, and that's it.
Yeah, if they catch fire, it's gonna be really tough on Indiana. But I think Indiana can handle it. It'll be a close game.
I hope it's double overtime. That's all I want to say. Double overtime between these two teams, magic.
Hopefully a buzzer beater too.
Oh man, in double overtime. That's it. That's all. That's all we need.
That's all we need. It'd be fantastic.
But Sweet 16, like I said, it is coming, and it's coming quickly. It'll be, I want to say it starts this Thursday. It'll be Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But let's go ahead and go over to baseball really quick. We're going to talk about the Tennessee Vols. They hosted number 8 Ole Miss this weekend. They dropped the series 2-1 to open SEC play. Friday's win was pretty impressive. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Friday's win came off of a 2-out walk-off base hit from senior Derek Lance to give the Vols a 3-2 win over the Rebels. And like I said, they were ranked number 8 in the nation. So what stood out to you from this series? Because it was a tough series.
Tennessee held their own overall against a ranked opponent, and I think that's always promising. They still have the same pitching problem. And Zach Warren, the ace, dude's incredible.
He is.
And then they also have Hunter Martin, 2-0 in the season, 2.25 ERA. But after that, it's really shaky for them. And their overall team ERA, 3.81. Not the worst, but it's definitely in SEC play, pitching is number 1.
And what scares me, I mean, it's common most of the time to see multiple pitchers being used on Sundays. That's fine. Ole Miss used 4 pitchers. Tennessee used 5. And none of them really had that great of a showing for the Vols. Yeah. That's terrifying. They really need to find some kind of power within that pitching rotation. They need something besides just Zach Warren, because he's a sophomore. You're going to get a lot of use out of him in the years to come, hoping he stays all 4 years. But this kid, Friday he got the win for the Vols. He pitched 6 1/3 innings. He allowed 4 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, and 8 strikeouts. That's insane.
That's a great performance.
And he's 4-0 on the season. He has all wins. It's wonderful to see. His ERA is 1.55. You need something else. You need a lot of power to come from your experienced players. I mean, Andy Cox is out there. He's doing well. Maybe it's not his best season so far. You can still have a lot coming out of him because we're still early in the season. But you need more power from that pitching rotation if you want to do anything in SEC play. That's just as simple as it is.
Yeah, the bats are swinging well this season overall. But at some point, you need to be able to prevent the other team from scoring as many runs as you can. And I don't know of any baseball team that has been able to win a championship without at least a solid pitching staff, and especially during the College World Series.
Right. The only team that comes to mind that wins it just based solely off of a solid pitching rotation is the 2011 UCLA team. They played against Florida, I want to say, as soon as they got into the College World Series. But I remember watching that team, and it was just insane. But you're right, you can't just have one without the other. You need both if you want to do anything. And so it's unsettling, to be honest. I mean, yes, it's still early in the season, but if you're only having one solid pitcher out there who's also just a sophomore, I mean, it's great for in the future. But what do you have right now that you can work with? That's what's scary. But looking ahead, the Vols will be hosting Tennessee Tech this Tuesday at 7 p.m. on the SEC Network, and then they'll travel to Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama this weekend. Alabama is 2-1 on the season in SEC play after facing LSU this past weekend. The first game of the weekend series against Alabama will be Friday at 8 p.m. on the SEC Network Plus. So how do you think it'll go for the Vols against Alabama?
I think they can pull out a game for sure, especially if Zach Warren's pitching. They'll pull out that game. Mm-hmm. I'm interested to see, though, how they continue to find a way to find that recipe for success when he's not pitching.
Yeah.
I think they'll beat Tennessee Tech fairly easily.
Pretty easily.
Yeah, but in the SEC play, it's just trying to develop this team. I don't think expectations for this team were too high even coming in. So it's just a process, and I'm just interested to see how they continue to grow through the pitching staff pains.
I agree, and I think one bat to look forward to is Vincent Jackson. He did fairly well in this series. He had some high points, but I mean, we saw that a lot last season, but I just look for him to kind of be a turning factor for the Vols this weekend against Alabama, but there's still a lot that can be said, but it definitely comes back to pitching, so we'll see what happens with their pitching rotation. Maybe we'll find some other guys that are going to be throwing heat. Hopefully that's what the Vols will be getting. But let's go ahead and transition over to Tennessee softball. They took on top-ranked Florida this weekend and got swept in Gainesville, but I think most people were expecting that to happen, maybe just not in the fashion that it did. The Vols only brought in 2 runs the entire weekend. 2 runs.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Well, I just want to mention something. Taylor Swift, one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs is I Knew You Were Trouble. And the line, I knew you were trouble when you walked in. I just know Tennessee, when they saw those Florida pitchers going on the mound, walking up there, they knew that they were in trouble.
All they could think was shame on me now.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly right. But it's kind of been the story all season long for Tennessee. They are beating up on the lesser opponents, but they're 0-7 against ranked opponents. Now, they did fare better earlier in the season against ranked opponents, but Florida, 30-1, okay? And there's a clear gap in talent and experience and pitching. Yeah. Let's just list their pitching staff, okay?
Sure.
Alicia Ocasio, 10-1, 0.3 ERA. Delaney Gorley, 10-0, 0.86 ERA. And then Kelly Barnhill, 10-0 with an awful ERA of 1.4. I mean, that's their worst starting pitcher. 10-0, 1.4 ERA. This team, if they don't win the softball World Series, I don't know who else will, because that pitching staff, you can win on that alone. And Tennessee, they just couldn't get anything going with their bats, and their youth really, really showed. Yeah,
but one thing that I think was a positive thing to look forward to, I know a lot of people talk about Randy Gaffin as being basically one of the most solid players that that Tennessee softball has, but Aaron Gabriel had a really impressive but also interesting stat line on Saturday. There were some down parts. In 5 1/3 innings, she allowed 5 hits, 3 runs, and 3 walks. That's okay. It's not terrible. I mean, 5 hits, that's okay. 3 runs is a little shaky. But she had 8 strikeouts. That's a very promising stat for the Tennessee softball team.
Yeah, Erin's been fantastic all season. And she was the pitcher that really gave Tennessee the best chance to pull out a victory. Overall, the pitching wasn't the problem.
Right.
Florida jumped on Tennessee early, usually in the games, and then settled in. Right. But the problem was the bats the entire time. And, they have a lot of freshmen batting right now, and those pitchers are just going to pick them apart. But Tennessee does have a solid pitching staff. I feel freshman Maddie Moss, she held her own. She wasn't that bad. Bria Bush still needs to improve a little bit. But, I mean, a freshman, it's expected, especially on the road in Gainesville. I mean, the swamp.
It's probably the toughest place to play right now in the nation.
Yeah, so what you look for in a series like this is not necessarily victories, is how are your younger players responding to the challenge. And pitching did, the batters did not. And even the experienced batters didn't even do well. That's more a testament to how good Florida is, though. I don't want to seem like Tennessee softball's in a bad place, because they're not. They're a great program. And they're going to have a solid season.
They will.
It's just they have to push through this tough part of the schedule. SEC, I mean, it seems like in every sport, the SEC is just insane.
Definitely.
So nothing to really have their heads hang down over to this weekend. Florida's a class of their own. It's Florida, exactly.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's important to note with Tennessee softball, they're number 16 in the nation right now, 21-8 overall, 3-3 in the conference. So, I mean, that's still good. That's not bad. That's respectable. 9-0 at home. I mean, if you're undefeated at home right now, that's great. This early, they're kind of in the middle of their season right now, but they're really they're the beginning of SEC play, really. So it's good that they have that. So there's still a lot to look forward to. But they'll be hosting Jacksonville this Tuesday at 5 p.m., and then they'll turn and take on Mississippi State in Knoxville this weekend, starting with Friday's game at 6 p.m. on SEC Network Plus as well. How do you see this weekend's matchup going against Mississippi State?
I think they will bounce back and win at least 2 of the games.
Right.
Because when Tennessee, the thing that they do the best on offense is when they get the leadoff runner on base and then they immediately steal for second. They already have a runner in scoring position.
Right.
They have, Lexi Overstreet, the season she is having, phenomenal. A career year. I think she's already surpassed her career high in RBIs and the season's not even over yet.
Yeah.
Rainey Gaffin's always a threat.
Of course.
When she's batting. So I see this team bouncing back. I know the weeklies will have them prepared. I think they'll beat Jacksonville on Tuesday. And I think Mississippi State, another opportunity to get Maddie Moss, Bria Bush in there and get some more experience and maybe prepare them more for the tougher SEC teams. Just the problem is, and I know back in the fall, Karen Weekly told me that they have an umpire that umpires their fall games, and he said that he had never seen a Tennessee team make so many mistakes, and they're really having trouble with the field on the field right now. It's improved as the season's progressed, but they still are committing errors, and committing errors against the poor teams, get away with it, but they need to continue to fix the little things if they want to possibly make the World Series. So I say they bounce back against Mississippi State, get at least 2 of the games.
I would go with at least 2 as well. I think this is a favorable matchup for Tennessee coming off of a series against Florida, where you're really going to be looking at what did we actually do well with? Because Florida, it's tough to
do things well.
Exactly. Florida's Florida. That's all you can say. But I think having this matchup right after in SEC play, I think that's good for Tennessee. I think they'll definitely benefit from it. But before we close out the show, I want to throw a quick congratulations to Tennessee track and field. Over spring break, Christian Coleman and Felicia Brown each became national champions in the 200 meter. So that's great for them. But also UT men overall finished 3rd, and then the women's side of track and field finished 7th. So that's a great showing. Nice to have more hardware back in Knoxville. But definitely throw out a very big congratulations to them. I know they've made Tennessee proud, but that is all we have this week in the triple play, kind of having to cover 2 weeks worth of things, especially with the Lady Vols. But join us next week as we continue to talk about March Madness. We'll see how far the Lady Vols have gotten at that point, and then we'll talk more about Tennessee baseball and softball, and we'll get ready to do a preview of the MLB as that starts in 2 weeks, which is insane. So excited.
Go Cardinals.
And that's all we have for this week. We will see you next week on the Triple Play.